Now, I can assure you one thing, that sometimes adults, great people, want to achieve great things, want to become great leaders, but they still carry that habit of looking around and always trying to find an answer somewhere from the outside and never learn how to become a man. What do we do when we don't know what to do? Each of us goes through moments often when we are about to do something for the first time. We haven't done that before and we just don't know what to do. You see, when we were kids, we were asking someone around us, maybe it's your parent, maybe a friend, maybe your brother. So when we were confused, when we felt weak, were scared, we were asking others, hey, what to do? So we were looking for help. Now, I can assure you one thing, that sometimes adults, great people, want to achieve great things, want to become great leaders, but they still carry that habit of looking around and always trying to find an answer somewhere from the outside and never learn how to become a man. Now, wait a second. I can't teach you how to become a great man, because greatness is something different for each of us. But I can share with you 4 things which changed my life and helped me to transition from that state of when you're an infant adult and to start making your first steps towards your own greatness. And I know and believe that can change your life too. It can change your life, and I know that because it changed mine, but I believe that because it changed the life of many others. So that if that works for many others, this process is very similar, because moving from a boy stage, moving towards the man stage is very similar to each of us. And that's not an easy process. And many get stuck, remain at one of these 4 stages, which I'm going to share with you today. And I want you to move from the first one to the second, from the second to the third, from the third to the fourth, so that you can become a true man, a powerful man, which is learning, which is powerful, is making decisions, is taking responsibility, so that you can get closer to that greatness which you are looking for. And it's not so hard as you might think. These 4 stages, I call them from how to move from the manhood to the manliness, then to the man, and then the 4th one, the man's man. Sounds amazing. These are just the name of these 4 stages. Now, these factors, these bridges, these victories, which you'll have to win, are not really pleasant, but we have to go through that. Because if we can learn how to do this uncomfortable work, I reassure you one thing, that years will pass by, and when your son or your daughter will ask you, Dad, what did you do when you didn't know what to do? Now I have a question for you. What is the story that you're going to have for them? The true story, not the invented one, a true story. What is going to be that story? So today, ladies and gentlemen, probably more gentlemen than ladies on this audience here, let's do this uncomfortable work. Now, you're going to take a piece of paper, because we're going to get emotional today. I'm going to share with you some stories. I have also a poem that I share with you. I wrote it down when I was going through a very critical moment of changing, of transformation in my life. So maybe it will resonate with you. Maybe you have a story that you want to share with the audience in the comment section below. Feel free to do that, so we can help each other, we can empower each other, so that we can move victoriously from the first stage to the next stage, so that we can become a more tougher, stronger, kinder, also at the same time man, which become great leaders, which lead others, and they become a model not only for their team, not only for your family, but also for your colleagues in your business. And I know it's hard, especially if you're in building phase of your business, which most of the audience at this moment is. Then congratulations, because this masterclass is going to leave a mark in your life. especially if you're going to pay attention, and especially if you're going to take some notes, because we're going to use a Blackboard, you're going to use your maybe digital device or a piece of paper and a pen. All right, so let's dive in. The first phase, which is so required in order to start letting our weaknesses and our childish way of thinking behind. And many people don't get through it. This is the first one, is the most required one. What is this phase? What is this quality? The number one is to overcome our pleasure, the desire for pleasure, the neediness for pleasure. We have to get over it. Now, what is this pleasure? There are two different types of pleasure. There is an instinctual pleasure and there is intentional pleasure. What does that mean? You see, look, if you go to the gym, there is no pleasure in going through that pain. It gives a sense of pleasure, but it's not extremely pleasant. But you want something. That's why you're going through that process. Now, many people focus on their desires. I desire this. I desire to have this lifestyle. I desire to have more free time. And they keep repeating the habits which are holding them stuck in this phase because they are so attached to the immediate pleasure. And when things requires pain and requires toughness, one would like to go over that and to force. That's the first idea that comes. How can I force myself to do what I have to do? Because there are other habits which gives you that immediate pleasure. And because you can't overcome that, you can't move forward. You can't accomplish the things what you set for yourself to accomplish. This neediness for pleasure kills man and keeps us, if we don't get over it, and keeps us repeating and doing things which gives us immediate pleasure. And we have to make a distinction between desires and wants. There is a difference, and that's what this is the tool that we're going to use here. There is a difference between desire and versus want. The desire is there for you and is telling you, boy, I desire to do or to feel something. The desire very often is connected to a feeling. The want is intentional. When you set for yourself a want, because you want something out of this process, out of this action, then you are not going to pay so much attention to the pleasure because you know what you want. And you heard that often, especially from the feminine side. But ladies, always prioritizing men is that we know what we want. Now, if we're focused on the pleasure, we can't allow ourselves the freedom to want what we really want. And by wanting, I don't mean that childish pleasure, but to know what you want according to who you want to become. So you look into the future, you look at the future version of yourself, and you say, I want to become that. I want that lifestyle. I want those capabilities. I want to develop those abilities. That is the standard which I want. Good. Get clear on that. Because if you don't allow yourself to want what you really want, your focus will stay on the immediate pleasure. And that will be like a chain and will keep you in the prison of childish thinking rather than freeing yourself to move to the next one, to become tougher, to become wiser, and to do what you set your mind to do. I want to share with you this thought. Freedom is wanting, the true freedom is wanting the ability to want what you really want. So rather than staying focused on the pleasure or on the lack of pleasure, Allow yourself to want what you really want. Because, look, one thing, let's get clear of something on the wants. One thing is always an opportunity for growth. Wanting something is always an opportunity for growth. Why is that so? You don't want to be miserable. You don't want to be miserable. Nobody wants to be miserable. So whatever you want something which, if you focus and if you get clear on what you want, you will have to go through a journey, through a process. And that process, that journey, that will make you grow. That is the opportunity which you create for yourself to grow. Therefore, your wants should never be too much judged. Do not overjudge your wants. Let your wants more than your desires, because when you start to focus on wants, then you will start to connect it with your desires, and you'll see that the desire is the fuel for your want, but it got to be directed. Now, got to be directed. Otherwise, if you stay focused on the pleasure, you don't give yourself the opportunity to get clear on what do you really want. Now, you say, how do I get clear on what do I really want? Because many people want what they think they should, what they think that would be respectful, what they think that will allow them to get admiration or appreciation or the respect from society, family, so on and so forth. But that's not their true desire for what they really want. Ask yourself this thing. There are 4 stages in order to ask yourself to figure out what do you really want. Now, look now on the screen. Now, whatever you want, and you might think that I'm not sure if I do, what do I really want, and should I want that? Ask yourself, what would I like? What would I like? You start simple. You start from a childish way of thinking. I would like to, and get it down. Write it down and say, I would like to have that kind of lifestyle. I would like to become this kind of man. I would like to, okay, good. Get clear on that. Now, afterwards, you ask the next one. I could. Okay, that's what I would like. And you create the list. Spend some time and reflect upon it. Now you have a piece of paper or taking notes. The second phase, ask yourself, okay, what I could, and you start to transform those desires into some direction for action. Then ask yourself, I should probably, and then you make the list. Okay, what I should, because you're thinking first, I would like to have that kind of lifestyle, or I would like to have those qualities. Okay, good. Means that I could start, or I could stop repeating that habit, or I could stop spending time on that thing. Yeah, I could. And after you could, then you move to the next one. I should. Yeah, I should give up that intention which is holding me and it's grabbing all my focus and attention. I should. And if you're really tough, and if you can move from I would like to, I could, and then to the I should, if you're really tough, then you get to the 4th. And the 4th is I must. So you take from the surface and you go deeper and deeper and deeper and say, I would like to, I could, then I should, then bam, I must. And then you get clear on those actions which are going to help you to shift your focus from the pleasure towards what do you really want. Now you might say, yeah, I want this and that, but how do I get there? We'll go to the next stage. But this one is required. If you don't develop this skill of overcoming your pleasure and to start to focus on what you really want so that you can do what you have to do. Remember the example at the beginning. If you are focused on the pleasure, then you're not going to go in the gym and lift the weights because it's heavy, because it's hard, because it's painful. So if you go in the gym for the pleasure, for fun, or just to boost your ego, and then you take 50 pounds dumbbell to train your biceps, then you're not gonna build the biceps. These biceps weren't built with what's in pounds. They weren't built with 30, 40 kilograms, which is 60 or how many pounds there? 65. No, you take a small weight because you're not focused on the pleasure. You're not looking there for a dance and to, wow, it's so good, it feels so good. No, it feels good, but after the set, not during the set. During the set, you got to push yourself. But if you focus on what you want, I want a fitter body, I want to be healthy, I want to be agile, I want to stay in shape, I want to be an example, set an example for my family, I just want to be strong and healthy. Or your energy, so many others. You know what you want. Then you don't focus so much on the pain during the set because you know what you want. And that helps you to overcome this break. And you'll know that the pleasure of doing what you want and gives you the way to start to doing what you should, you could, and you must. That pleasure, when you get what you want, is 1,000 times more pleasant. That's a much bigger pleasure. That's why there are two types of pleasure. There is the instinctual pleasure and there is the intentional. There is the pleasure. The instinctual pleasure and there is intentional pleasure. So the intentional pleasure is a pleasure that you want to have or to experience for yourself, or pleasure also in giving and supporting and leading and building and achieving what you want to achieve, but serving also your family, your clients, your customers. That's intentional pleasure. So then you can start to do what's required to do, what you should, you could, and you must, so that you can get to that kind of pleasure. That's an intentional pleasure. So that's enough for the first stage. So I call it the ignition phase, so that we can move from instinctual pleasure to intentional pleasure. In order to do that, you got to get clear on what do you really want. In order to get a clarity on what do you really want, start from the simple one. I would like to, I could, I should, I must. That's how you get to the bottom of it. And that is going to be your first step. Shifting the focus from the pleasure towards what do you really want for yourself. Okay, this is the first stage. Everybody should get to learn how to go through this phase. Now, the next phase, the second phase, is the ascension phase, or how we presented in the beginning, the manliness. Now, what is that? How do we do that? The ascension is, if the first one was the pleasure, the second one is the approval. This is a huge one. When we start to do something for the first time in our life, and if until that moment we were taught, somebody helped us, somebody guided us, and was there to show the way, and was our leader in that moment and to that phase. In the ascension phase, you got to do that for yourself. Now, there are no many applaudissements. There are no people saying, oh my God, you're doing amazing. You got to do that by yourself. And that's tough. That's tough at the beginning, but that's amazing. And that's what we actually men want. Because it just comes now the example. When you train at the gym, not with your body, but by yourself, gym it's a great exercise that helps you for following a diet. That will hone your character as you have never imagined. Just try to do that. Who said it online a few days ago? I've seen it. I've never seen an unhappy man with six-pack abs. You just can't be, because if you get to that level, you got to discipline yourself. You got to be consistent. You got to push yourself. You got to be consistent with your intentions, and you also have to control your desires, your instinctual desire for food. So that will shape your career a lot. Now, when you get to that level, when you can tell to yourself, you got it, buddy, man, you got it, and you're pushing yourself, that's tough. That's tough when you can do that by yourself. Now, many people never cut their umbilical cord, which keeps them attached to their parents or to the people they try to follow or to model. Now, I'm gonna say something a little bit harsh, a little bit is, I'm not suggesting this, but it just it might be your case. If you feel that you still can't cut that connection, which is a connection which keeps you backward and keeps you tied and locked to where you're coming from, look at this. Go as far as you can. You can't even hear them. But stay as close as you can still see them. So you got to create this distance between who you're trying to follow or between those people from whom you seek and you need. But we're going to talk about this neediness so that you can overcome this neediness for approval so that somebody can tell you, yes, you're doing the right thing, because you have to learn to distinguish that for yourself. The second one is the neediness for the approval. So overcome the neediness. Making some mistakes here. Neediness for approval. Okay, you got to get over that need. That's not something specific to a strong man. Now, let's understand better this seeking, this neediness for admiration. It's good when we get admired and with this admiration, when somebody supports us, that's amazing. But living in the neediness of admiration or support or approval is going to keep you weak, and you don't want that. Do you want that? You don't want that. You want to become independent. You want to become a provider. You want to become strong. You become the leader of your business. You have to understand other people. You have to become the leader of your family. Maybe you're already that, but you struggle because you don't see yourself or not as ready, or you don't have lots of support. Don't learn to generate that for yourself. That's what tough men do. That's how they start. And then you got to go with that too. I want to share with you this little thought. The neediness for I want to share with you this thing. When we are told, I want to share with you this thing. When you are told, oh, you're so good, and it has an impact on you, it is as dangerous as when someone tells you, oh, you're so bad. If you find yourself that when you're criticized, not constructive criticism, but you're just, they try to drag you down. They try like, you're not so good, you're not so smart. And if that affects you, ask yourself, how do you process the moment when somebody admires you and says, oh my God, you're so good? Do you get pleasure out of it? Probably, because you are so attached to that pleasure when you get that admiration. And when somebody around you says, oh, you're so good, because of that, because that has a huge impact on you. That's why also when you're over criticized, when somebody just try to drag you down and like, oh my God, why they don't support me? Why they're like this? That's why that phenomenon also has impact. Both of them are very dangerous if you are not intentionally handling these two phenomena, when you're praised and when you're criticized. But in criticized, I mean that bad negative criticism, when there's just people like, it's like, don't go so far, just try to do something less. And I assured you at the beginning, go as far as you have to so that you can hear them, but stay as close as you have to so that you can still see them. So maybe it's a close person to your family, you want to, in a very specific moment, to be helpful, or maybe you'll need some help. Just be there, see them. Do not go crazy over that, but go as far as you have to so that they don't even hear that. I know that's a little bit harsh. It's a little bit an exaggeration, but you can see for yourself how to use it. Another thing I want to share here with you is this approval. It just happened a few weeks ago. Really, adult people still have these neediness. Business owners, they also have a team, and man, that's not good, because when that neediness is in the leadership and the leader is present, that neediness, it's projected all over the place, and that team is suffering. Yo. Now, what I'm talking about? I'm talking about that neediness from your ex-leaders to approve what you do. Let me give you this example. If you invite me over dinner and I'm your guest, and we don't see each other often, but you care about our friendship, and you have silver spoons and silver forks and silver knives, and you use them twice a year, and you really care about our relationship, so you bring your best on the table and you put your silver spoon, your silver knife, and like, wow, that's beautiful. Now imagine me as a guest. I look at them and I say, whoa, what's these? I deserve the gold spoon. Where's the gold spoon? I will only dinner with with you if you have gold spoon, gold knife, and gold fork. Only if that. Otherwise, that's below my standards. I'm going to say, probably get out. Get out of here. Why do you need such a kind of attitude, right? But that's what we adults sometimes do with our parents. They gave us their best according to what they've got. That's what they thought is best. Now, if you don't have anyone that's doing business in your family and you're the first one, how they sometimes say the black sheep, sometimes becomes the goat, all right? You're the first one. The worst thing you can do is ask business advice from the people which haven't done business. But you want to force them to give you the advice and the approval that you think you need because you can't generate it for yourself. And you blame them because they haven't taught you in your childhood, or even now they're not giving to you what you force yourself to need. That's unfair. That's ugly. That is very ugly. We have to stop to be so needy for approval, for admiration, and for praise. That's not a virtue. That's not a powerful man that you are looking for to become or to be. That's not. So what do? We are thankful for what we've got, and we try to make better. Go and do better. Sometimes because of just few years we've spent with our parents in our family, and that was not what you expected, where now you think like, oh, that's unfair, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. But now you've got a decade at your disposal, and you still struggle to make those powerful decisions. Woo, this is even more unfair. Go and do it. Go and do it better. Who stops you? This is the sentence that my father repeated for thousands of times. I want to do this, I want that, I'm going to try this. Who stops you? My father was a great man. He is a great man. He's alive. He's a great man. But he was a man of a few words. But the words he repeated most often was, who stops you? That's a powerful question. You see, sometimes we have just a few words, and that's enough. So let's stop as a young man, as an infant adults or adults. Let's get over this. Let's get over these. Let's overcome this neediness for approval. All right. This is the second stage. And avoid to get the pleasure from when you're praised, when you're approved, when somebody says, wow, you're so good, because that can also have a huge impact when somebody starts to tell you some BS and starts to drag you down and wants to pull you back. It's up to you. This is an equalizer, it's a personal thing. You got to decide. And of course, there are people who sometimes, great people, which push us a little bit so we become better. So you got to be careful with that. But ask yourself, how is this neediness? Is it always present, or do you take it as a gift when you have someone in your life which is supporting you, is admiring you, and that's beautiful? But in order to become that man which can be surrounded with those kind of people, you also have to build this value within yourself. And you do that by overcoming this neediness for approval and admiration. That's not a virtue. This is the second stage through which every man towards his greatness should go. If the first stage was to overcome the neediness for pleasure, from instinctual pleasure, so you start controlling your needs in your immediate pleasures so that you can start setting intentional pleasures, which are after your true wants. So you got a want, you fuel it with your desire, you accomplish it, and that pleasure is an intentional pleasure. That's the pleasure that a man has after doing what a man is supposed to do, according to your principles, not according to what you're supposed to do because you've been told, but because you see that greatness and you want it, and you know you could, you know you should, and now I really hope that you see that you must get closer to it, because it is very, very close. The third stage, the third overcoming, we've got to overcome number 3, we've got to overcome the sensitivity. Being too sensitive. Now, this one is a tricky one. Sensitivity is a tricky one because sensibility and sensitivity are different things. You're taking notes. So let's write it together. Now, I'm going to read it. You're taking notes, and then if we get opportunity, we'll write it down. So, look, it's a huge difference between sensitivity and sensibility. The sensibility is your ability to sense somebody's pain, somebody's need, somebody's problem, somebody's emotions. You can sense it. You don't become a piece of wood or a stone. No, you are sensing it. But the degree to which you allow those factors, those feelings to have an impact of how do you react, the process of your reaction, that is your sensitivity. Now, we gotta be a little bit less sensitive. We got to overcome that. What do I mean by that? Somebody says a word worth criticizing you a little bit, and you jump to the reaction and you say, what? Oh, I'm doing wrong or what? That's not how a powerful man, a great man process and does the things, right? So I'm going to say something a little bit harsh here, Sometimes I'm going to use the you, but I'm not referred to you, but we'll try with the but I wrote it down with the you. You are soft because you think you're kind. But no, you're soft because you're weak. Ooh, let's get clear on this. We're dropping mics and bombs here. All right, so look, when we choose to be sensitive, we truly choose if we can be both. We can be harsh, we can be too harsh, but we choose to be kind. Remember, toughness is strength and kindness together. So how do we manage this sensitivity? You can only choose if you can be both and you know it. Now, wait a second. That doesn't mean that you have to do all the mistakes. You got to be an idiot. You got to be an angry kangaroo in every area of your life. So then you can say, oh, I've been that. I can be this, but I'm choosing not to. No, that's not what that means. That means that if you look backward in your life, you can see many moments as each of us, when we were far from the standards which we've set for ourselves. Few mistakes are enough to learn about our weaknesses, and few mistakes are enough to learn the pattern which is present in your life, in my life, which keeps us so sensitive to things. And when something goes south and we don't accomplish what we set our mind to, and we're like, oh my God, it's a failure. And we become so sensitive to our failures, to other people's words. That's not the way. We got to get over it. Now, how do we do that? We do that by building our self-awareness. Now, wait a second. What's self-awareness? Self-awareness is directly proportioned, so it goes hand in hand, to the amount of uncomfortable questions you can pose yourself. You know those uncomfortable questions? Am I a man of word? Do I always keep my promises? Do I really care about my friends, or am I just a little bit taking advantage? Am I always saying the truth, or sometimes I'm afraid saying the truth because I want to maintain this relationship and I don't want to create any tension. I don't want to shake the boat, or how do you say? So these uncomfortable questions, asking yourself, the more uncomfortable questions you can handle, the more your self-awareness increases. The more your self-awareness increases, the less sensitive you become. And then you're not so, you're not easily intimidated anymore, because nobody can tell you something that you don't already know about you. And you you know also the answers. Now, if the self-awareness is the amount of uncomfortable questions you can handle about yourself, the self-confidence, not confidence in doing something, self-confidence is directly proportional to the amount of answered uncomfortable questions, to the amount of answers you've got for yourself by asking uncomfortable questions about yourself. And when you know what you've got in the garage of your soul, when you know that it can be like this, it can be like that, you know it. So you can start to build that self-confidence and that awareness so that when you start to make a bigger decision, when someone is just trying to drag you down, you already know about that. You become less sensitive to failures. You become less sensitive to other people's words. You become less sensitive to negativity around or to those which just try to talk always bad about others. You become less sensitive so that you can get to this power, which I'm going to share with you. Let's write it down. This is something you want to remember. You want to remember that you've got to switch from reacting without sensing to sensing without reacting. What does it mean? That means that you start to develop the power of holding your horses. And rather than jumping on the reaction, you sense the message, you sense their intentions. You can ask more questions, you can get the clarity, you can have a conversation. You can ask them, hey, what made you to think this way? What made you to say those words? What are your intentions? Before you jump on the reaction, you're like, oh my God, I get triggered so easily. Oh my God, or they say this about me, or oh my God, they don't support me. Oh, they don't admire me. Like, no. We got to get to this level so where we can react from reacting without sensing. When you just react without making sure, hey, what's the input? What's the intention? Ask, have tough conversation, explain yourself, ask them, have that tough conversation with the individual which is around you. Or if you can't, then let them speak. If they're far away and that doesn't have an direct impact on your life and they don't overstep your boundaries, let them talk. Don't you worry. Don't jump into reaction. What can I do? How can I shut up them? None of your business. Now, if they overstep your boundaries, that's another conversation. Then you go and make clarity there, and you start put things in order as a great leader does. And you can do that not through reacting without sensing, but you go sensing. I can sense things without reaction. All right. So now you might ask, all right, so is it possible that can I be soft and tough at the same time? Can I be soft and tough? Have you sometimes gone through this dilemma? Or you might ask yourself, can I be kind and strong at the same time? Wrong question. The right question is, I must be soft and tough, kind and strong. They are not one against the other. You can be both. You must be both. So that you know when it's time to defend the tribe. You know when it's time to cut the umbilical cord and let things go and people go. When it's time to put other people further from your team, from your business, you know when is that time. And when somebody is starting to talk uncontrolled way, and that has a direct impact on your team and your business or in whatever you are engaged now or busy doing, you can say, now you stop talking, let's have a private conversation. Boom, sold immediately. You don't wait until you prove to yourself for the 1,000th times, oh, I knew, but I didn't. No, don't wait for the 1,000th time. Go and make order. So take the situation in your control. Be tough. Doesn't mean you start reacting. No, well, what you're saying, no, that's why I said first. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Whoa, no, don't do that thing. You sense where the situation is going. You sense it because you know it, but you don't jump into the reaction, into engaging. You stop the situation. You invite the person in a private conversation, and you have a tough, uncomfortable. You can do it even in the most kind way, a very soft voice. You don't have to do how they do. All right. So this is the third step, the third stage, which we have to take. Are you taking notes now? I'm going to erase this. The steps that we have to take, these were the third, how to overcome this sensitivity, so that we can start to learn how to sense where the situation is going, but without jumping into the reaction, right? And let's make sure that you can be both tough and kind, strong and soft at the same time, and you gotta mix them together, all right? So you do not create this illusion for yourself that I'm nice because I'm kind, that's why I'm nice. No, sometimes we are afraid to be tough. We are afraid to be strong. We are afraid of our light. We're afraid of our power. We are afraid of our dreams. We're afraid of our greatness. And because of that, we take the easy route. We take the easy road. And that is never shining, never making tough decisions, never growing and changing our lives. And we choose illusionary choice that we want to be kind and nice, but you're actually not. That's the only way you can do things. And you can't be the other side. And you've got to develop that. Therefore, overcoming this extreme sensitivity, it's required. But do not overkill it. Sensibility is what keeps you amazing. Because what kind of powerful man you want to become if you're not kind? I always like this comparison. An angry kangaroo. That's what it looks like, powerful man without kindness. One last thing about this sensitivity. If you don't overcome this sensitivity, we remain stuck into this. How can I please the people around? How can I maintain this, my public image somehow, so I don't stand up and I don't start to do what I have to do? And because too many factors can have access to who you are, and you never build that tower within you. I want to share with you a poem that I wrote to myself when I was going through a moment like that, and I made for myself that decision to never go back to that state where I'm too sensitive, because I was very often too sensitive, too much compassion, too much empathy, too much of everything. Remember that a giver doesn't have limits, but so there's also the taker. And very often we men, because of our empathy, because of our ability to share and give support, we can get lost into overdoing it. And then those things starts to get to our access to our inner self, and then they start to shake the whole thing, and they start to inject doubts where there is no place for doubts. All right, so here's the poem that I wanted to share with you. Maybe you like it. I will write it also in the description below. A thought of mine became alive and said to me, "You're all you've got. Just think me more and you'll thrive." Then it disappeared, and so it ended our little chat. It led me there with a more desire that slowly grew from flame to fire. I wanted more, to think, to plan on how to be a better man. But nothing happened. Even worse, the emptiness brought up more remorse about why didn't I think much more before. But what if silence should never be ignored? Between the days, throughout the nights, wrestling God and losing fights, I kept on thinking how to be more like the crowd and less like me. You are the boy, you are the man. You are in charge of who you want to be. Mean what you say, do what you plan, and God will bless you. Just wait and see. We're still going to have that boy within us, which wants that immediate pleasure, those little things, those little, I want to play. It has its own space and place. You got to be there. We don't have to overshadow, forget it, to ignore it, so that we don't become harsh. But at the same time, we got to mix it together, the boy and the man. So this is the third stage. The third stage which every great man got to go through to get closer to their greatness so that they can allow their power, their leadership, their manliness to express so that you can become the man that you want to become. Not just the things that you desire for yourself, but also the man that you want to become. All right. The number four, we have to overcome. My writings is good. Our ego. My dear friend, if you haven't learned what an ego is and how you got to hold your ego in check, you're in trouble. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart with all the love I've got for you. My brother, if you want to become a stronger man, if you want to get closer to that greatness or to let that greatness, which you see just a piece of it now, your ego is stealing it from you. This is my personal definition of what an ego is. The ego is a high interest loan on your life at the cost of your soul. This is my definition for what ego is. You improve, you increase the self-perception without increasing the self-worth. That's the game ego wants to play with you. Your ego wants to convince you that your self-perception should be increased and you have to project that constantly on others, trying to convince everybody else that your value is higher than what you actually know you are, or you've built, you've proved. So the focus on the self-perception on everybody in front of everybody else, and to a very dangerous level, also lying to yourself without increasing your self-worth. What's self-worth? What's the value you can bring? Now, the self-worth for yourself, what you're worthy of, that's another aspect. But what's your worth is what's the value you can bring to the table in the marketplace. So we got to know how to look through our ego and to not let our ego to create all that pain that we go through our life. Because very often when we have to make those powerful steps, make those tough decisions in our life, our ego is right there at the door to tell us, how can we get a shortcut? How can we get with less work? How can we convince everyone of something that we are, even if we're not, so that everybody is going to think and believe that we are, but we are not? That's what your ego wants. Now, wait a second. Well, at the end of this stage, your ego is there because you need it a little bit. Now, we'll talk at the end, when do you need it? Because if it's there, means it has a purpose. Later about that. First, let's understand with this ego, which is at the door of our thinking and is stealing our real self-awareness and sells the self-awareness to me and to you as self-perception and taken to a further step as self-worth. Woo! We're in trouble. We are confused. So let's get things in order. Before we get things in order, I want to share with you this thought that really had an impact. I couldn't find who said it first, but it's not mine, but it's something that touched my life and I want to share it with you. I'm sure it can touch a chord of your life as well. Starve your pain, find your ego. Starve your ego, find your beast. Starve your beast, find your truth. Find your truth, find your peace. Oh, this is powerful. Man, this is powerful. Starve your pain, find your ego. Starve your ego, find your beast. Starve your beast, find your truth. Find your truth, find your peace. The 99% of pain in our life comes because of our ego. Because our idea of who we are, of who we should be, but needs to be thought now as it already was is ego's job. Your ego wants you to be number one, to be the first one. That's the ego. Ego says, you gotta survive. You gotta put yourself there first, not in a healthy way, but just you first. That's it. You can crush others. You can just overstep other people's respect and self-worth and values. Just don't worry about it. You just go forward and that's it. Even at the cost of hurting others. To be clear. Now, how do we get clear with this ego? Because if you don't get to absolve this thing with your ego, man, your life is full of emptiness, which is never going to be filled with anything. Now, how does it work? Your ego is like this. When you're at 2 o'clock in the night, when you want to end the task that you're on, and you really care about the outcome, and you've promised to yourself that you're going to finish it, your ego says, go, you got it, that's your thing, you deserve it, that's you. If you don't do it, ego might go into an extreme push and says, look, if you don't accomplish it, your self-perception goes down to zero. Everybody is going to think that you are a null, a zero, nada, like that one. If you let your ego to drive your actions constantly. That's why you gotta use it just a little bit, just a kick to start the ignition of an action, or to get out of that a little bit overthinking, over self-doubt. It's like, whoa. What do I want? What's my interest? Why am I here? Boom. The ego kicks in. It was like, whoa, let's stop this conversation. Hey, guys, what do we want to accomplish? Boom. That's a little bit of ego. If well managed and accompanied with great confidence and self-awareness and room awareness, ooh, that's great. That's beautiful. So you don't become too soft, that you are not too sensitive, that you don't stay in that room for a week without making any decision because you are afraid that you don't come across as too cocky. You're not. Take the responsibility together with the tough decision and move forward. And sometimes your ego is going to kick you a little bit just to move forward rather than stepping backward. But just as a kick, not as a value-driven factor for your life, period. If you want to reinvent the bicycle, reinvent the bicycle. So what's the root of the ego? The desire for a increased self-perception compared to your self-worth. When you want to increase your self-perception just by not an inch, for 1,000th of an inch more than your self-worth, your ego starts to not to be in check. It starts ruling things. So just you know, when your desire to increase your self-perception, I know I'm not, but let's convince everybody that I am. On your responsibility, on your account, for the record, your ego is at work. Now, you got to be very wise to know how to make the distinction. When is time to pull yourself up a little bit? That ego sometimes can a little bit to help. And when you are focused on it, and your ego that mechanism starts to take control of everything you do and starts to drive your actions, your desires, your needs, your goals, your vision, your mission, everything. That's the crossroads. When the self-perception wants to be higher than the self-worth. So if you want to increase your self-perception, increase your self-worth. So then it's not ego anymore, because you say, whoa, I would like to have that kind of lifestyle. Good. That's ego a little bit pushing. That's good. You want something for yourself. Congratulations, ego at work. But that's not a big problem yet. So you want those things for yourself. Boom, ego's at work. Now, you go within yourself, because you've been through the third phase, self-awareness, increasing the number of the uncomfortable questions, increasing your self-confidence. How? By increasing the number of the answers of those uncomfortable questions. Boom, self-confidence, self-awareness. Then you say, okay, what should I do? What can I do? What could I do? What I must do so that I increase my self-worth by bringing more value, by letting that greatness to be expressed. So then also the self-perception is going to be increased by increasing first your self-worth. In very simple words, get things done first before you start sharing them or trying to use it as a leverage before you've done it. When you want to leverage something you don't have, that's your ego at work. And the first definition which I've shared with you is your ego is a high interest loan on your life at the cost of your soul. What means you're going to increase the perception of the quality of your life. Actually, it's not, but you increase the perception at the cost of life. So it seems that your life is getting better. It's not. So what do? You go in bitterness, you go in regret, you start to get angry on others, you start to go in a victim mentality. Why? Because you know you haven't done that thing. You know you're not. So when you close the lights at night and you go to sleep, you know who you are. But you lied all day around to everyone else, including you, trying to push up the self-perception without investing any work in your self-worth. By working on what you're supposed to work, by doing what you have to do, by taking that responsibility, by making that tough decision. Your ego can steal and will steal your happiness if not in check. If it's in check, and if you use it just a little bit when things get a little bit too overcomplicated and you want to, let's have a boost of action. Let's get over like, okay, what do I want? Where am I going? What I'm required to do? How can I do it? Who can I help? Who's with me? Let's go. Bam. Boom. Then we will resolve along the way also. We'll get clarity along the way. So in that moment also your ego. Remember this thing. Do not demonize it, but just remember it. If you want something for you, your ego is at work. Now, if you use it, because it's always there, who doesn't want things for himself, herself? We want. But if it's in check, we use it when we have to do the work, but then we provide more. As a man, we provide more. We offer more. We bring more value into the marketplace. We bring more value in our families. We become the leaders that you want to become by taking more responsibility and being able to handle that pressure. That's how. So it ignites with a little bit of ego, but along the way, it's in check. You don't have to use it anymore because you have a mission, you have a vision, you have something much greater than just wanting things for yourself. If you've been through the first stage by making the distinction between pleasure and wants, the neediness for approval, you've got to cut that umbilical cord and start to realize that you are on your own and you can do things. If you start seeking that kind of constantly being approved and praised for what you do, all right? At the same time, do not hate your wants because all your wants are your opportunities for growth. Your wants are there. So the journey towards your want is going to teach you everything you need in order to get the clarity of the things that you really want, you didn't really want. You lied to yourself that you want, but now you say, I actually don't want that. I thought, but actually I want something else. You'll get that clarity. But you can't get that clarity if you're not on the journey, if you're doing the work. How do the work? Being on a journey. To be on a journey, you got to have a destination. What's the destination? That want which you have now. And you can't see what a greater want until you get to that. So get to it. The faster you get to it, the more clarity you'll get. The more self-confidence you've built. The more self-leadership you build. The better leadership you become for others. That's how you do it. And you can do it much faster if you stop nurturing that neediness for approval from others. And that's what great men do. The number 3, overcoming sensitivity. Be tough and kind. Do not allow things to force you, because they can't force you. It's our choice to force you to react. So remember that formula. Reacting without sensing, or am I sensing without reacting? So what am I doing? So something triggers you, something seems off, something seems that is a little bit, okay, good. Sense it. Don't engage. Bring more questions. Go deeper, figure it out, then make the decision. Number 4, overcome your ego. Let that desire to increase your self-perception in front of others, let the desire, that need of your ego aside, because when you find yourself that you want to increase your self-perception more than your self-worth, the value that you actually bring, your ego is at work. Now you know. So you're going to keep it in check and use it just sometimes when you really, really need. And when you want to increase it because your ego pushes you a little bit up, you say, okay, good. I want to have that kind of perception of myself because the perception that I've got now, the awareness that I've got now by myself, it's not really satisfactory. Good. How can I increase my self-worth? How can I increase the value that I bring to the table? How can I bring more value into the marketplace? That's how you increase it. So then your perception, also people around are going to see like, wow, respect, you've done it. Good. Now you earned our respect. That's how we do it, not the other way around. Good. Right at the end, I want to share here with you a story about the mountain man. The mountain man was a man living in a mountain by himself. He wasn't in the commercial things. He was not commercializing things. He was just living by himself. He was eating grass and grain, everything by himself. The mountain, no connection to the civilization. Then one day he decided to go downstairs, to go in the town and to see how people live there. He comes to the town, there's a market, and he goes in the market and is like, what was that? And they say, no, that's a piece of bread. He eats that piece of bread, he eats it for the first time in his life. He say, wow, it tastes good. How have you made it? They say, well, we put flour in this. Oh, flour? Flour from the grain? The grain is, yeah, from the cereals, yeah. Oh, I eat those cereals every day. I know that grain. Okay, good. But he moves forward. Then he gets a taste. They offer him a pancake with honey. Pancake with honey. Then he tastes. It's like, that's good. Wow, how I made it. And it's like that. That's how we do pancakes. We put flours. Oh, flour? You say so? The flour from the grain that I know. Yes. Oh, I know it. I know it. Then he leaves it. Just took a bite, enjoyed it, but left it and moves forward. He goes the next one. There was a biscuit. Then he eats the biscuit and say, the perfume, the flour, the taste was so amazing, so good, and he was enjoying it. And then he asked how it was made. When there was flour, the flour that I made, the grain that I eat every day, that kind of flour. Yeah, that one. He left it there. He went back in the mountain and say, those guys really don't know anything because they just eat things of the thing which I eat every day. So I have the essence. They just have the versions of it. I have the essence. So I'm good. I'm good with that. So he felt himself superior. It's a funny story for me. You see, sometimes just because we saw one thing within ourselves, we really want to build this perception of like, oh, I know it all. Let me tell you, let me share you, let me show you, I've got it all. I've got it all. Because we're so afraid sometimes that we don't know how to make biscuits or we don't know how to make a pancake, okay? In the context of our story. Rather than admitting it and saying, man, I was eating grain all my life and biscuits really taste good. Or I want a pancake too. I want a piece of bread too. But I'm not going to lower myself into admitting that I don't know how to make a piece of bread. So I'm going to keep eating grain, raw grain, and losing my teeth. But I'm going to admit it. That's a funny story for me about ego, because that's what I see there. And we sometimes do that. But the more we learn to spot our ego, the less pain we go through. And I want to leave you again with those lines that I've shared with you. Starve your pain, find your ego. Starve your ego, find your beast. Starve your beast, find your truth, find your peace. This is the fourth stage of these 4 stages, which I put my heart into it as I was going through every stage. Sometimes I still go through, everybody goes, and the new stage in your life, again, these 4 stages, they arise again and they want to hold you back. But so we do the work, but then it's not that painful. It's that not confusion and that maybe anger is like, why am I like this? Why am I like that? And you just look backward and say, oh, I could have done better there. I missed one thing here. Why have I missed it? Boom, you go backward, you adjust it, you move forward. So you do the work. You don't become a saint. You don't become the Buddha tomorrow morning. And we're not going to be Jesus Christ tomorrow. But if we let God to help us and we pay attention, as much attention as we can, then God trusts us even more with more things. And then you become a more responsible, greater man, which serves the world and makes a huge change in your life, in the life of others around you. And that's how we, young man, whatever is your age, because it's never too late, we move through these four stages from manhood to manliness to the man and then to the man's man, so that we can make a difference in the world around us. If this was valuable to you, I want you to share in the comments below what is the most valuable thing you've got from this masterclass. What's the number one thing that really touched the chord in your psyche, in your heart? And subscribe to this channel, support our work. We're doing our best. We can do much better. And share this video with someone that you know that is striving for improvement, for growth, and wants to achieve great things, wants to serve the world, wants to make a difference in the world, and is going through fights and through lots of struggle and lots of desire for clarity and power and strength. Share that with your friend, and together we're making this change. Together we help each other, we empower each other, and that is true manliness. We support each other, we empower each other, we don't drag each other down, we do not point at our weaknesses, we kindly show them one to each other, and then we ask, how can I help? How can I be of support so that we become greater leaders? And therefore, our life changes, but even more, the impact in the world changes. The way you lead your family, your team, the way you build your business, and that's amazing. We'll see each other in the next video at Exploraself MBA. My name is Alexandr. I salute you. Bye-bye.